So tonight we're going to go into three different books and kind of do some high-level hillbilly correlation of learning stuff that only people like us really seem to like to do that. But I mean, we encourage other people to read the stuff that we're reading too, and I think a lot of times it gets shared with others on the Decoders of Truth. I share it, Matt shares it as well. So we're going to do something a little special tonight and go into kind of some of the deep issues that come out of these really historic and wonderful books. And so I'm really grateful that you three decided to read this stuff. And Jay's a reading machine, so we have to really keep putting the books on the bedstand and keep up with him and take our Starfire Gold. So, so the first issue that comes up is out of Manly P. Hall's book, and we're going to go through and kind of connect some really esoteric stuff for you that also has an impact on your lives here and now today in understanding the completeness of the teachings of the past and possibly some of the understandings that we've been able to derive, like with the holographic models and the Emerald Tablets and the Lost Teachings of Last. And so for me was this really profound revelation about who is the Demiurgus. This shows up on Manly P. Hall's book on page 57. The divine Pymander Hermes Mercurius Trismegistus is one of the earliest of the Hermetic writings now extant. While probably not in its original form, it was modified to be more of a dialogue. So let me just move down. The Divine Pymander consists of 17 fragmentary writings gathered together and put forth as one work. And the second book is the one we're going to focus on, and it's called The Vision of Hermes. And this one is really, I don't know, this one affected me probably more than many other writings I think I've ever read. And I'll get you guys' input on this. But in essence, Hermes is out meditating and has a out-of-body experience and has an encounter with what he calls Poimander. And I'm going to read you that section right here to give you the background for it. And then the stuff that comes out of this and the symbolism is so powerful because we see it all over the world. We saw it in the Chinese culture, we saw it in Mesopotamia and Egypt, and even in Middle Age Europe with the idea of a dragon. So listen to this. Hermes, while wandering in a rocky and desolate place, gave himself over to meditation and prayer. Following the secret instructions of the temple, he gradually freed the temple. I believe he's talking about is the Atlantean temple, where he learned this. He gradually freed his higher consciousness from the bondage of his bodily senses, and thus released his divine nature, revealed to him the mysteries of the transcendental spheres. He beheld a figure. Yeah, he beheld a figure, terrible and awe-inspiring. It was the great dragon with wings stretching across the sky and light streaming in all directions from its body. Now, haven't we all been taught that's an evil thing, the dragon, right? Right? I was.
Of course.
Were you, Matt?
All of it.
Okay.
Everything is it seems is a perversion of something that was good. Everything.
Yeah. Well, this is like, keep in mind, this is one of the oldest extant writings from Hermes here. Okay, so the idea that Manly got his hands on this is amazing. I want to go get the entire 17 fragments of the Pymander after seeing this. So the great dragon called Hermes by name and asked him why he was meditating upon the worldly mysteries. Terrified by the spectacle, Hermes prostrated himself before the dragon, beseeching it to reveal its identity. What are you? Are you dangerous? Can you squawk IDD so I know if you're friend or foe? Right? Exactly. Yeah. So the great creature answered that it was Poimander's, the mind of the universe. Really? Now you're probably asking yourself, well, which mind? The good one or the bad one? Because you're scaring the hell out of it, right? The creative intelligence and the absolute emperor of all. That's what he says. Wow.
Right.
So this dialogue goes on for a while. I mean, just crazy cinematics, just like you saw in the Emerald Tablets, the smoke and the vapor and all the crazy stuff. And finally, this dragon changed into another form, and it said, his form was not revealed. I, thy God, am the light and the mind, which were before substance was divided from spirit of darkness and light. Wow.
That's insane.
Wow. So he's having a profound experience
So just a little further than Gerald, it continues on, and as Hermes is meditating and he's beholding this giant dragon of light in front of him, they continue on. They discuss further, and there's a couple really profound points I want to read. And the first one is on page 99.
Okay.
And Poimander says, "Learn deeply of the mind and its mystery, for therein lies the secrets of immortality." And you think about that, and if, like what Jay said at the very beginning of the show, if this Ka energy, Enlil, Jehovah, Abraham, controlling the illusion of physical matter and all of the things that distract us, obsessing with just keeping us obsessing with the physical body and not caring at all about knowledge or about the spiritual self, that's the great distraction. These things chasing our tail around with this matter. And so that, in that sentence right there, that if you learn deeply of the secrets of the mind, you will find immortality. And that's right there. It tells you that if you're able to find mind over matter, that every answer will unfold before you.
The source of knowledge lies within.
Yeah.
Once you finish that, reading the rest of it, where it says, "Then the Father Supreme."
Yep, and so then I have the next part. So on page 101, this is probably the deepest part of that entire conversation with Poimander.
The book, actually.
Yeah, maybe besides this, pretty good too.
There's a couple of them in there, yeah, but it's profound.
So Poimander says, "Then the Father, Supreme Mind, being light and life, fashioned a glorious universal man in its own image, not an earthly man, but a heavenly man, dwelling in the light of God." So you look at that one sentence, and it explains all of the problems we have of not understanding that we're part of this one universal consciousness with the creator of all. But not only that we're actually created in the image of the creator of all. We are little gods here. We're children within God avatars who just have amnesia of knowing that. And they tell you right in front of you. And the hardest thing for us is actually be able to believe that, because we constantly just get pulled back into this illusion of physical matter, of Ka, where we refuse to believe that mind over matter is king, and we just hold on to physical matter in the third dimension. That great taking that red pill, always staying in the red chakra and never ever leaving the physical body. That's what that represents in my mind.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to jump over to page 104, the second paragraph down. And I hope, Jay, if do you have your book with you?
I do not have it with me.
Oh, I was going to say, I'd like to have you read some of this, but this, to me, I was not going to include this much of it, but I think this is probably some of the most profound part of this entire book. And so I focused in on this, and I think it'll weave in well with where we're going to go with the rest of this. So I didn't give you this map that we were going to do this, but I'm going to do this, okay? So on page 104, the second paragraph, Poimander continues as he's telling Hermes all these different things about, he had just finished telling about the chakras and ascending the 7 rungs of the ladder. He's talking about, raising your consciousness. So right after that, he says, "The path through immortality is hard and only a few find it." So even though this Ba energy is put in us, if you don't awaken it, you may not go down this immortal path. So
and Gerald, can I just jump in there really quick?
Sure.
Going along what you just said, you said the path along the way is hard and many will fall. If we go back to the anonymous Enki message of all things, at the end of that message, I found a very striking thing he wrote, where he said, "There are many warriors among you, and most or many of them will fall." And it's almost the same thing. And it tells me that I think beings from all over the universe are all here, learning in this teaching or prison planet. Then it goes to show you that they're being challenged by the very same things that are trying to deceive them, and that only those who are able to rise to the greatest heights will actually be able to break out of Ka. And that those who, even like listening right now, those who can listen to these words, they're not going to be able to find that unless they can experience and understand it for themselves, because that path is so difficult. that only through direct experience and learning from these lessons within can you actually break out. It's like
and one other thing too, Matt, to add to that, in the old immortal words of Manly Hall, in the last book that we're going to talk about, I don't want to skip to it, but let's just stay right there because it's very poignant. And that is, as Gerald knows, it takes possibly thousands of lifetimes to apply those lessons and those
because you keep forgetting every time.
That's a hard pill to accept. But here, listen to this. See if we get some more clarity.
I got to do 1,000 more of these again. Yeah.
It's possible.
Okay, so the path to immortality is hard, and only a few find it. The rest await the great day when the wheels of the universe shall be stopped, and the immortal sparks shall escape from the sheaths of substance.
There you go.
Woe unto those who wait. They must return again, unconscious and unknowing,
Yep.
to the seed ground of stars, and await a new beginning. Those who are saved by the light of the mystery, which I have revealed to you, O Hermes, and which I now bid you to establish among men. This is where the Great Commission comes in.
Yep.
Shall return again to the Father who dwelleth in the white light. So all of you that are talking about avoiding light at death because of the psyop, it's a farce. Go for the light.
All trickery along the whole thing has been trickery.
Put
And when we get to the next part with Satan, you'll learn that the trickery is.
Here, I got some more. I got some more here. Let's finish this off.
Go faster.
Okay, I'll go faster. Okay. And shall deliver themselves up to the light, and shall be absorbed into the light, and in the light they shall become powers in God. This is the way of good, and is revealed only to them that have wisdom. Blessed art thou, O Son of Light, to whom all men, I, Poimanders, the light of the world, have revealed myself.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes the really great commission. I order you, go forth to become as a guide to those who wander in darkness, that all men within whom dwells the spirit of my mind, the universal mind, may be saved by my mind in you.
That's awesome. The dweller within.
Beautiful.
Which shall cast forth my mind in them. Establish my mysteries, and they shall not fail from the earth. For I am the mind of the mysteries, and until mine fails, which is never, my mysteries cannot fail. Boom!
That's
There.
incredible.
So when you see that Thoth set up mystery schools, and Jesus did his teachings, and Confucius did all these incarnations from Hermes on, because of this encounter and the affiliation with the dragon, okay? Remember before he changed his symbol in my second book to an upside down star to go with the right side up star for Isis, that was their symbol. But before that, it was the goddess and the dragon. And this is why he affiliated himself with Poimander.
And that's why they're called Hermetic writings, because they came from this inspiring moment with the great mind of the universe itself.
Right. Yeah, so I know I went a little bit over on that one, and we got a lot to cover.
No, it's awesome though. Let me just say, let me make a point there. So
yeah, go ahead. I'm going to switch over to the next one.
How poetic, impactful, resonant is it that there's the creator of all himself, God, in his many manifestations, it telling us right there in the book that if you do not seek, exactly right there, snuffing out
picture of Hermes. Okay, that dragon is not the one he's talking about. This is a land-based dragon that represents your skewed perception prism. Okay.
Yeah, but the reality is like God is telling us that you're going to reincarnate over and over again until you choose to find the light that's within you, which is him, the light inside, the indweller in me.
That's exactly it. This is what I saw, because it coincided with the Emerald Tablet so closely. He told you you're born in this illusion of the Demiurgus of Ka, but in you is this mind of the great source of all, which is my job to wake up in you. That's really profound.
So just link it really quick to a great metaphor for this. The movie Groundhog Day. You have almost this idea of these lives over and over again with the same thing that's distracting you. And you will relive the same nightmare until you can finally change. You become a good person. And all of a sudden, the nightmare no longer.
Which movie was it? which movie was it that Tom Cruise was in where he was like a soldier and he kept coming back to the same?
Not Minority Report. It was the one. It was 2 years ago. That movie.
Yeah, but it was the same concept of you keep coming back and trying to figure out where you are and preserve your conscience so you can go farther, right? So I thought that. So anyway, that was really profound for me and established for me a vision of what the dragon symbology was all about. That clearly Hermes, Thoth, Quetzalcoatl adopted.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So let's move on to the next one. So in this next discussion from Manly P. Hall, which I think is fantastic, it's on page 407 for anybody who has it. Adam, the Adam and Eve character, is having a discussion with the character that we have been told biblically is Satan. Okay. And it's absolutely a fantastic read. And in essence, without reading all of it, and I think there's some of it we may want to read. You've got listed down page 407, Matt.
Yeah, you should start with "I, the serpent, answers" and
I'm
read till the end of the
I'm going to
paragraph.
have you read it since I did the last one. I see where it is.
Okay.
So anyway,
Here, I'll
so Adam is having this conversation with this Satan being, and he's basically telling him, "I've had enough of you. I followed your dictates. Every time I asked to get higher, you rebuked me and sent me packing. And I'm just done with you." It's basically saying all the illusions, the lies, the destruction you've led me to, I'm through with you. Whoever you are, and I followed you. I thought you were my God, but clearly you weren't. So right after that point, once this Adam has broken his illusion of Ka, because that's really what he did when he reads that, says all this illusory stuff that you fooled me with, no more. Right after that, this being that he's seeing, what he calls Satan, has a discussion with him. Matt, why don't you read that part right from
Okay, so we have to understand this idea of the illusion of Ka and how this demiurgus is protecting this reality from being broken by only those who are able to achieve this kind of hero path along the road, because the road is hard and it's meant to be only succeeded by those who have the courage to travel it. So within all of Adam's frustrations, he's standing in front of Satan, and this is what Satan says to him when he's right at his breaking point. And this is what's so amazing about it, that people have to kind of understand to not be so frustrated in life.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you could do this paragraph, then we could get some segments of the next one, because it's very, very telling. These two conversations, the vision of Hermes and this one, of the entire book, and then actually toward the end where where this professor shows up at the American flag and the signing of the Declaration of Independence, that's really good too.
I love the professor part. I must say, I really like
time for that. There's so much in this book.
And they always say, it's always darkest right before the dawn. So Adam in this is a metaphor.
What timing right now for this, right?
So Adam is at his breaking
point. No coincidences, Gerald. That's awesome. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah.
Just like our species, right? They're at their breaking point. They've been tricked by Ka for so long, and they've done everything by the rules, and they've been stepped on repeatedly and dragged through the mud. And so right at its breaking point, as a great metaphor, Adam is sitting there basically throwing up his arms in frustration for everything in reality that he's tried to achieve. And this is what the great Satan says to him. "I, the serpent, answers, am Satan, who was stoned. I am the adversary, the Lord, who is against you, the one who pleads for your destruction before the eternal tribunal. I was your enemy upon the day that you were formed. I have led you into temptation. I have delivered you into the hands of evil. I have maligned you. I have striven ever to achieve your undoing. I am the guardian of the tree of knowledge, and I have sworn that none whom I can lead astray shall partake in its fruits."
Woo!
So right there,
wow.
You gotta look at all of this and realize that this great hand that does not want us to succeed, the one that wants us to die without ever achieving the light.
I would take issue with that. I would take issue with that. I don't think this being, I don't believe, is the Demiurgus. This is different. This is the one that's guarding the.
No, I don't. I think it's the creator of all who's protecting.
Well, yeah. Who was guarding the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden?
Enki.
Okay.
Oh, you mean Enlil? Yeah.
Well, I personally, I cannot distinguish whether this being, and we're going to go on with this here in just a second, whether this is because of the commission that was given to Thoth Hermes as the guardian of the Tree of Knowledge, or whether it was his father. But they've acted so much in concert, it's hard to distinguish them, really. So,
well, when you agree that Enlil Yahweh is just an avatar for the Creator of all anyway to fulfill.
Absolutely. He's just playing the destruction.
Yeah.
But I don't think.
So really, that's all they're doing is they're just playing.
Exactly. But he wasn't actually the guardian of the Tree of Knowledge. He appointed one. Remember the flaming sword. Anyway, so look at the second part of this. Adam replies, and after he just got told by his adversary, the one that's been tricking him and deceiving him all his life. He goes, "For uncounted ages I have been thy servant. In my ignorance I listened to thy words, and they led me into paths of sorrow. Thou hast placed in my mind dreams of power. When I struggled to realize those dreams, they brought me to naught and pain. Thou hast sowed in me the seeds of desire, and when I lusted after the things of the flesh, agony was my only recompense. Thou hast sent me false prophets and false reasoning, and when I strove to grasp the magnitude of truth, I found thy laws were false, and only dismay rewarded my strivings." Wow, he's trying, but he's getting cut off at every chance he's getting, right? Darkness thrown in his path. "I am done with thee forever, O artful spirit. I have tired of thy world of illusion." This is the illusion of Ka. "No longer will I label in thy vineyards of iniquity. Get thee behind me, tempter, and the host of my temptations. There is no happiness, no peace, no good, no future in the doctrines of selfishness, hate, and passion preached by thee." Okay? And this is where it ought to make your head spin around when this being, Satan, reveals who he is to the Adam. Okay? Matt, why don't you do that one, the very last part there? It is profound. And I promise we won't do too much more reading tonight, but these two.
And this is why we have to understand that if we're if we're created in the image of the Creator of all, then the path that we take would have to be the hardest path of all, because we have the potential to reach the highest state of evolution of any being in the universe, because we are the gods themselves. Yeah. And so let me read what this Satan reveals to Adam here. "Behold, O Adam, the nature of thy adversary. The serpent disappears in a blinding sunburst of radiance, and in its place stands an angel, resplendent in shining golden garments, with great scarlet wings that spread out from one corner of the heavens to the other. Dismayed and awestruck, the Adam falls before the divine creature. I am the Lord who is against thee, and thus accomplishes thy salvation," continues the voice.
Wow.
"Thou hast hatred me, but through the ages, yet to be thou shalt bless me, for I have led thee out of the sphere of the demiurges."
Oh, there you go. See, that's how I'm telling you, this is not the same as the demiurges. This is a guardian of the Tree of Knowledge that can morph into any form. It's the bottom line here.
That's why I think it's the Creator of all. Yeah.
That's crazy. Keep going.
"I have turned thee against the illusion of worldliness. I have weaned thee of desire. I have awakened in thy soul the immortality of which I myself partake. Follow me, O Adam, for I am the way, the life, and the truth."
Wow. Wow. What are your thoughts, Jay, on that?
I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, how about them, because it's flip-flopping, because we have no idea who it may or may not.
This concept of the deceiver also being the initiator in the Tree of Knowledge, that's the part that, now put yourself in Enlil's role and seeing that this being was commissioned to play that role, whether it was Enki or his son Thoth. I believe the Poimander is actually Osiris, Enki. And this guardian of the Tree of Knowledge that shows the twin serpents going up, wrapped around a tree in this instance, was an incarnation of Thoth operating on behalf of the Poimander, just like he said. So that to me is just, and also the way, the truth, the life. Where have you heard those words before? In the New Testament? from Jesus.
And I see Enki as being, he's the guardian of reality in this planet. He's doing the work of the creator of all to protect, to only allow those of the initiated to get through, because that's the only construct that can work for something that could be as powerful as we are.
The path of illumination is hard, but that also what he said in there about how through the ages, so they're there. It's just like Gerald says, they're there every step of the way.
Every step of the way.
Civilization, every single new Atlantis, every single country, every single birth of a nation. There they are.
Now you're seeing things at the level that I look at them, because I don't go, well, this civilization is going to be really fantastic because they believe this and they have this leader or this one or that one. This has been going on for a long time, and I think all of these together are for us to see all the influences that this Satan being has done to show you here's how a good civilization will look in Atlantis. Here's how one will look under communist Stalinism, okay? And here's how it looks in North Korea or India or wherever. And so for us to have an internet age where we can start comparing and contrasting all these different models and then see how we've been led astray, he's right. He's like, you have to be led astray and drugged through the dirt multiple times, or you won't get out of this illusion of cause. Like we're just hard-headed. We don't learn unless we get physical somatic input, right, through our five senses.
Well, but then we learn, right? But then we die.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. If you had a very long lifespan, this begs the question: would the work expand to fill the time that you have? In other words, you lived 800 years, and you knew that you didn't have to come to this knowledge this was the difference between you graduating out of the holographic simulator slave planet or not. Would you do it right away, or would you wait till right toward the end? This is the
exactly.
So
right. That's a great question.
Okay, so what do you think? What do you guys think about this symbolism of the dragon and the poimander? Why did he choose that symbol? And then in this Adam and Satan, you realize when he shows up as an avatar, the snake is wrapped around a tree, right? In this Adam and Satan.
Right.
So he takes on this symbol of a snake wrapped around something, okay? Like Caduceus wrapped around the pole. And Enki had these too. And actually, go back to the tree of knowledge in the Mesopotamia, they had the twin serpents going up guarding the tree of knowledge, right? So the idea of protecting higher knowledge goes all the way back to this concept of the war of consciousness for our primitive workers, right? And this was where the Demiurgus and Enki, his brother, Enlil and Enki were basically tweaking the simulator based on how much consciousness we're allowed to have and probably the cycle master's timing for when we're allowed to have it in this dimension. Right. Imagine you accelerate somebody beyond where they're supposed to be in their dimensional reality. Well, you've just messed up the whole basis for the school, right? So
Gerald, that brings up a really interesting question right there, and it's kind of off topic, but I want to ask it. So if they were tweaking, both of us were tweaking us, and they had to get the approval of the cycle masters, what do you think was the most advanced form of us before they downgraded us and clamped us to be 120, right? Because we know Moses Zarathustra lived till he's 800 or 900 years, and Jacob and all those guys. So what was the ultimate quote unquote sapiens version before they clamped us? What do you think who that was? Was that just
Noah? Noah was represented it, right?
Well, going back farther than that, and actually, we're going to get into that in the Lost Teachings of Atlantis. So I want you to narrate this one, Jay, since you're so familiar with it. I am too, but I want you to get a chance because you're leading right into the question that we're going to talk about in terms of, at what point did we lose our full contact with the divine source, such that we ended up in avatar bodies and were disconnected from that source? There was some process there that happened, right? So I think we'll talk about that. So jumping over to page 76 on the Lost Teachings of Atlantis. And this is the book by John Peniel. And I know it's
fascinating book, by the way.
It's a different
this book.
This one actually I was resistant because it was coming through the lessons of a master and a student instead of direct text like the Emerald Tablets or these others. Right. But with that said, they do a fantastic job on the history of Atlantis.
It's profound.
I wanted to share one thing on page 76 that really kind of struck me, because the Emerald Tablets came under assault by lots of people who said, "Oh, those aren't real, blah, blah, blah. They were all made up by Dorial." Well, listen to this. As the master Zane of this, I don't know, Atlantean monastery. What else would you call it, Jay? That they set up. They were perpetuating the teachings of Atlantis in these monasteries.
Yeah, it's the Atlantean monastery.
Okay, led by the great being who became known as the Atlantean Amuleus. This is a new name I hadn't even gotten for him before. Then known later as Thoth, and eventually well known as Jesus much later.
Yeah.
Okay, so this master teacher, Zane, this isn't me saying this, he wrote this, okay, on page 76, reconfirms what we've been seeing all along, is that when Thoth took on that great commission from Poimander, it was told to go establish my mysteries. That's a mystery school, right? Okay, there's a direct connection there with his mystery schools in the land of Kemet he set up. So he talks about a lot of that history in the Lost Teaching of Atlantis that also ties Thoth in, who titled and stated in the documents that I, Thoth the Atlantean, wrote this document. Okay, and later on, we see that several, Manetho and a couple of the other Egyptian priests said that this guy, I think Herodotus too, said Hermes Thoth had written over 35,000 works in sum total. We don't know how many lifetimes that was over, but they were all attributed to him. So that is fascinating.
Gerald, Plato mentioned it too. Plato mentioned it in the Critias too.
Right. And how many of those Hermetic teachings were burned, destroyed, and we'll never be able to read them? That's the
Well, you know what, Matt? I don't know. I think that's the story. I think that's the illusion. I think that a lot of that stuff I've read is Gerald, what was the book that told us that they saved a lot of the documents from Alexandria? That it was actually a cover-up to tell us, to keep people thought that it was all con, but they actually saved a lot. What was the book you and I read recently? I can't remember. Is it in?
I think it was in Manly P. Hall. I think it was in Manly P. Hall.
Yeah, it's Manly Hall. Yeah, a lot of the books, a lot of the stuff was saved, but they were obviously scurried out in the cover of darkness under, probably the Roman legions, and then they were hid away. I think they were hid away, Gerald, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere in Italy.
I'm not sure.
I can't remember where.
I don't know. My mind is kind of on this this segment right now before I forget it. But I wanted to share a little bit off of page 83 with you that tied together a lot of things for you. From number one, we heard that Doriel was part of this Great White Brotherhood. And we knew that the White Brotherhood was the Egyptian Therapeutae, the priests that were serving Thoth, the Atlantean, who landed over there. So listen to this. This is coming from Zane as well. Some in the new lands were called the children of the one gods, or the Great Light Brotherhood, or Great White Brotherhood. Others became known as the Magi, magicians, and alchemists. Okay, and then later on down, it says a branch of the Magi formed communities around the 5th century BC, eventually become known as the Essenes. This is where my mind started tripping on this, okay? The purpose of this community was specific: to live a strict spiritual life, as pure and disciplined as possible, in order to provide the ultimate physical vehicles, avatar bodies, for the final incarnation of the being that was Master Thoth and his soulmates. Wow! You gotta be kidding me. So they're grooming avatars for a future time so that they can incarnate in them and do their Atlantean mission.